think that most college kids and young people in general are predisposed to being liberal, right? But I actually have a lot of insight on why that's not entirely the case. And in my speech today, I really want to emphasize why it is that our Tea Party principles, our conservatism, is something that can resonate with young people. And in fact, this movement is truly an intellectual enlightenment that will have the greatest impact on my generation. For those of you who don't know already, the Tea Party has already extended all across the country to many different colleges. I'm actually part of a larger network called Tea Party Students, and we are acting effectively and boldly to bring conservatism to academia. We are poised to turn the tide with our reason. We are turning the tide on the mainstream thinking that has led to the expansion of government and all of the fiscal and liberty-related issues that we confront in our activism. We are the ones who promote individual liberty, and this is where truth will win out and give people the power to reclaim their freedom. Yeah! Now, during my time as a conservative activist, I was really struck by the manner in which socialist and liberal students would address my own views. And in particular, there are two observations I've made in speaking on multiple occasions to student audiences. And the first is that their judgment is mainly an emotional investment. They won't budge on a position simply because they don't think the outcome can be achieved any other way, the same outcome that they want. And there are plenty of examples that fit this observation, right? The paranoia that a public option is the only way to solve healthcare problems, that granting illegal immigrants amnesty is the only way to be compassionate, that redistributing wealth is the only way to solve poverty. The people who believe these things, though, the people I've met personally, would not hold these positions if they understood that the outcome is not what they expect. And this is an important point because inherently they are not socialist, even if they're beholden to the fantasy that a socialist utopia promises. If they understood, for example, that the very notion of illegal immigration endangers the lives of the immigrant, if they understood that the Mexican drug cartels and jihadists use those same avenues to infiltrate and jeopardize the lives of all the people in this country, would they still think it's a compassionate position to be lenient on border security and legal immigration? Of course not. The ultimate reason for their belief in these positions is based on the final outcome. And obviously, if they think the outcome must be good, they're not going to oppose it. It's good, they're not going to go against that. And this raises a fascinating point about today's younger generation, my generation, which is that there is the alleged disconnect between most of our Tea Party values is not entirely a matter of ideology, it's a matter of outright reasoning. The problem is their reasoning, not that they're, associated with a certain ideology. In fact, on campus I found that apathy runs more rampant than socialism, and that liberalism is kind of like the default position. So we should be bold in our ideas because they don't have any way of knowing our ideas through anyone else. When you say the principles that you defend about liberty and the Constitution, they'll be hearing them for the first time, and they're curious to hear them. So we have an advantage in this because our ideas are fresh and new, and this is why we should have confidence that the youth vote is not something that's up in the air. We have the opportunity to take it. Now this sounds like many people are just being strung around by their good intentions, but obviously that's not the entire story, right? The second observation I've made is that instead of remaining intellectually flexible, I've encountered students who frame the circumstances to suit their worldview, to create the truth, right? To create the outcome they believe is good. I remember I was talking to this guy about socialism, and he went on a rant about how much the wealthy make and how little is taken from the taxes. And this justification is ridiculous because he automatically thought that just because someone was wealthy, they're inherently criminal. And without any evidence showing that the rich are the bane of the poor, the automatic assumption was to frame the mere circumstances of someone being wealthy to mean that they are the immediate problem and that the only way is to steal from them. You don't need to be a conservative or a libertarian or even a genius to figure out that that's unreasonable, right? Yep. You don't. This excuse for stealing is about framing the world in which one option, a coercive option, is allegedly the solution for society's problems. Where is the critical thinking and intellectual curiosity in that position? It's not there. It's not realistic. It's not common sense. And this is where the Tea Party is unique, as a movement that bases its action upon principle and a view of the world that is complex and honest. The power of the Tea Party is based on the belief in free market capitalism, which is not spiteful or based upon a theoretical charge of class, but instead a realistic view of individuals living together, taking part in one another's abilities to produce services and goods, and living to the best of their ability with the highest standard in mind, without coercion, without mastery, with prosperity abounding in communities, rather than being cut off by bureaucrats who waste the time and efforts of the people who are productive.
Yeah! Yeah!
The positions we hold are reasonably interconnected to this concept of economic and individual liberty, and they are substantiated by what we ourselves live, not by abstract notions of overblown, exaggerated, and unrealistic problems.